In the summer of 2008, 3 Navy SEALs rented a house in a quiet San Diego suburb. They weren't hiding. They weren't undercover. They were just 3 guys from SEAL Team 3 looking for cheap rent close enough to Coronado that they wouldn't be late for 0430 Pacific time. The house next door had been empty for months. Then, one Tuesday night in August, a moving truck arrived. The men who stepped out of that truck were not moving in furniture. They were stacking product, and they had no idea who their new neighbors were. Let me set the scene for you. It's 2008. The war in Afghanistan is at its peak. SEAL Team 3 has been rotating in and out of the Helmand province on a tempo that would break most people. Between deployments, the guys live like monks. Train, sleep, repeat. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Reyes, not his real name, for reasons that will become obvious, is 31 years old. He's done 4 combat deployments, earned a Silver Star, and has exactly 0 patience for nonsense. He rents the house on Palomar Street with 2 teammates, a Bud S classmate they call Domino for his habit of falling asleep mid-sentence whenever he sits down, and a newer guy, fresh off his first deployment, who the team refers to exclusively as Boot, because that's what you are until you've done 3. The house is modest. 3 bedrooms, a backyard, an ugly yellow kitchen. Rent is $1,400 a month split 3 ways. For guys spending 200 days a year in austere environments, this feels like a resort. For the first 2 weeks, the house next door is empty. Foreclosure. The kind of property that sits in limbo for months in the post-2008 housing collapse. Then the moving truck arrives. Reyes watches from the kitchen window while drinking his pre-dawn coffee. The men unloading the truck are working fast, too fast for furniture movers. And they aren't carrying furniture. They're carrying sealed boxes, the kind with no brand markings, the kind you don't label because you don't want anyone to know what's inside. Reyes notes this, files it, goes back to his coffee. He's done counter-narcotics interdiction in the Caribbean. He knows what a stash house looks like. He just didn't expect to live next to one. Over the next 3 weeks, the house next door establishes a rhythm. No one sleeps there. There are no lights on at night. But between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., a car arrives, spends about 40 minutes, and leaves. Different cars, always 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Domino is the first one to say it out loud. He's sitting on the back porch one afternoon, watching a late-model Suburban pull out of the neighbor's driveway, and he says, without looking up from his protein bar, "That's a stash house." Reyes: "Yeah." Boot: "Are we sure?" Reyes and Domino look at Boot. Boot: "We're sure." Now, here is where most people would call the police, move out, or ignore it entirely. Reyes doesn't do any of those things immediately. Instead, he does what SEALs are trained to do. He conducts reconnaissance. Over the next week, using nothing more than his own observation from his own property, Reyes builds a pattern of life on the house next door. Arrival times, vehicle descriptions, number of occupants, duration of visits. He sketches a diagram of the property's sightlines. When he has enough, he makes a phone call, not to the San Diego PD, but to an agent he knows at the DEA, a guy he worked with on a joint task force in Colombia in 2006. The agent's response, when Reyes describes what he's seeing, is very short. "Don't touch it. I'll make a call." This is where it gets complicated. Federal investigations move slowly. A stash house on a quiet residential street is a surveillance priority, not an emergency. The DEA agent tells Reyes to sit tight, go about his life, and let the professionals handle it. Reyes does exactly that, for about 2 weeks. Then the pattern changes. The 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. window disappears. The cars stop coming. The house goes completely dark. And then, on a Thursday night, a different vehicle parks across the street and doesn't leave. Reyes clocks it from his upstairs window at 11 p.m. A black Ford F-250, engine off, no interior lights, parked with a sight line directly into his front door. He wakes up Domino. They watch for 2 hours. The truck doesn't move. Reyes calls the DEA contact at 1 a.m. The contact answers on the second ring, which tells Reyes the man isn't sleeping either. The agent says 2 words, "Stay inside." And that is when Reyes understands that someone on the cartel side has learned about the call he made 3 weeks ago. The stash house isn't just a stash house anymore. It's a loose-end operation. And he, Domino, and Boot are the loose ends. What the cartel sent was not their A-team. This is important context. The Sinaloa operation in San Diego in 2008 is a sophisticated, compartmentalized network. The enforcers they dispatch for domestic witness management jobs are not the same caliber as the men who run their counter-surveillance in Mexico. They're local hires. Muscle. Men who understand that intimidation works on normal people. Reyes, Domino, and Boot are not normal people. By 2 a.m., all 3 are awake, dressed, and have quietly discussed their options. They are not calling 911, not because they don't respect local law enforcement, but because they understand that a phone call takes time, and time is the variable they may not have. They are, however, calling the DEA contact again. Reyes gets a voicemail. At 2:17 a.m., 2 men get out of the F-250. They're carrying. They approach the front door. What they do not know is that by this point, Reyes is behind the front door with a weapon he legally owns. Domino has exited the back of the house and moved laterally through the neighbor's yard to a position of advantage, and Boot, the newest guy, fresh off his first deployment to Afghanistan, is in an upstairs window with a clear sightline to the front path. The 2 men reach the porch. One of them knocks. Reyes opens the door. What happens next takes approximately 8 seconds and involves no shots fired, because the moment the 2 men register what they're actually looking at, a calm, large, armed man who is clearly not afraid of them, in a house that is clearly not empty, with clearly more than one presence, they make the correct tactical decision. They leave, quickly. By 6 a.m., 3 DEA vehicles are parked on Palomar Street. The stash house is raided that morning. Agents recover product, cash, and enough documentation to dismantle the distribution node entirely. The F-250 is found abandoned 2 miles away. The 2 men are picked up within 48 hours. Reyes, Domino, and Boot are interviewed by DEA agents for about 4 hours. Then they go to morning PT. Because that's what you do. The case eventually results in 14 arrests connected to the Sinaloa network's San Diego operation. Reyes is back in Afghanistan 6 weeks later. Here's what I keep coming back to when I think about this story. The cartel ran a sophisticated, multi-million-dollar operation for months, right next door to 3 of the most highly trained human beings on the planet. And for a while, it worked fine. Because SEALs are professionals. They don't freelance. They call the right people and let the system run. But when the cartel made the mistake of moving from passive criminal operation to active threat against those men, the system failed to respond fast enough, and the men filled the gap. If you enjoy these stories, the channel is right here. There are more of them. Some of them are even crazier than this one. Stay sharp.